Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. I am your host, Mmmm. I just wanted to let you know that we are trying to get Russ onto the stream this morning. We have a little technical difficulties here, but hopefully he's going to be joining us soon. But I did want to go ahead and start the broadcast again, um, just so that we can get started. Good morning to Tom Jr. Jackson. Good morning, Tom Jr. Jackson. I hope you are well. My moderator, collaborator, and friend is here. So good to see you all this morning. Yes, guys, if you do enjoy Sunday Brunch and enjoy the show, please like and subscribe to Sunday Brunch. We certainly would appreciate it. And also subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel. Tom Jr. Jackson has his own YouTube channel, guys. So go ahead and support the YouTube community here. We all want to make sure that we all support one another here, and certainly do that by linking to Tom's channel there in the chat, guys. I'm also on Twitch. I am also on Twitch. And good morning, Russ. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? Sorry, I couldn't log in on that desktop. Thank you for sending the email.
Sure. Can you lower your microphone? Hi. And guys, good morning, Russ. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I just got back in. Sorry I'm late. As I said, I couldn't WhatsApp desktop isn't opening for me, so I couldn't get the link. So thank you for emailing that.
Certainly, no problem. It's such a pleasure to see you this morning. And guys, make sure you like and subscribe to Tom and also follow Russ on russwhitfield.com, everybody. Make sure you check out his work there and so much more, guys. So good morning to Mario Lopez.
Hey, Mario.
Mario, I hope you are well. It's great to see you this morning. It's another morning with Sunday Brunch, and we have Dinosaur says, good morning, Artem, Russ, and Tom. Did anything success you at the Oscars? Maybe, yeah. Dinosaur, it's good to see you this morning. I thought the Oscars were great. And the wins were great too. And good morning to Joe Tyson.
Big Joe. Hey, man. How's it going?
Hi, Joe. Sure hope you are well. Great to see you on Sunday Brunch this morning. Another great Sunday brunch. So good to see you all. Darth Plato is here.
Hey, Darth Plato. How are you, man? I will write to you. I'm so sorry. It's just been really busy lately.
Well, it is so good to see you guys. Certainly wonderful to see you all. Oh, yes. And Darth Plato is saying that he was surprised by All Quiet. I wasn't surprised because they'd done so well at the BAFTAs winning movie of the year. So that didn't surprise me at all. I was glad to see those wins for All Quiet. In fact, I thought All Quiet was going to sweep everything, honestly. Oh my gosh, Mario Lopez for the €5.99 super chat. Wow. Wow, this is amazing. Mario, thank you so much for this. I so appreciate it. Mario says, what does the Snyder Darkseid tweet mean? Is it only to promote a Snyder com, or is it going to be Justice League 2 and 3 announcement on Netflix? This is a good question. Russ, do you want to talk about this? Do you know anything?
No, I just hate talking about Snyder and the Snyderverse. You know that. You know how much I can't bear it. Shit. We all hope it's a Netflix announcement, but I think the smart money is on the SnyderCon. I can't see it being anything else. But Snyder, his tweets are always mysterious. I think might be the right word. It's always full of different meaning. Like last year he was posting the 7 chairs around the round table and all of that, and his assistant director was posting, what's his name, Clay Starr was posting all of that stuff and saying, look, I can only tell you what I know, and these conversations have happened. Now this is all, of course, pre James Gunn, but now you've got this. Well, let's see here. Now we know that we know that Shazam is failing hard at the box office. If you look at social media, right? Apparently, that's all the fault of the Snyder fans not going to see it, and it's all our fault apparently because we're just boycotting it because we're full of hate. If you look at social media again, apparently it's a fringe, tiny minority. So which is it? Or is this like a massive swathe of the fan base that actually wants this stuff? And they're a massively noisy part of the fan base. I'm leaning towards the latter, to be honest with you, because the stuff that I read, especially on Reddit, um, is the people that don't seem to like the Snyderverse actually just attack the people that do. They don't really seem to have any legit reasons for not liking it. It's the same old hackneyed Snyder can't write, he's great at visuals, and these people need to get out of their mum's basement, and it's all that stuff. But it's never any sort of real content about the movies themselves. Um, do I think this is an announcement of Netflix? No, I don't, because of the full circle hashtag. And what does that mean? Does that mean he's back at, he's landed a deal at Warner Brothers? He's come back to do something with Warner Brothers, with his characters? I saw a rumor the other day that, um, now how much basis in actual fact this is, and probably someone will Google it while I'm talking, but someone was saying that Guns realized he's actually, opened his mouth and inserted his own foot with this whole Henry Cavill thing, and they're trying to dial that back and maybe try and pull him back in and say, "Oh, we're doing rewrites now, and actually this might work, and we'd love to have him back," etc., etc. Whether that's just wishful thinking on the part of a journalist, I really don't know. I can only hope it's true. But no, Mario, I really don't think it's going to be a Justice League 2 and 3 announcement on Netflix, as much as I would love it to be. Um, I think the best that we could hope for is James Gunn gets fired and they bring in Zack Snyder and say, sorry, we were wrong, and we get everybody back. That'd be like utopia, but that's just probably not going to happen. I think the best we can hope for with Justice League and Zack Snyder, honestly, for me, is just complete those films and do spin-off films in the animated universe. Because I've said this on this channel before, you could get Ben Affleck to do it because he could be in LA with his kids, like he was saying. Which we got to talk about that article. That was superb. Um, you could get Cavill back for a fraction of the cost, Gal Gadot back at a fraction of the cost, and just make these animated films, which DC do really, really well at. Like, I'm not such a fan of the Tomorrowverse. I'm not going to lie; it's been my least favorite iteration of DC animated to date. In that I don't watch it religiously. I haven't seen all the films yet, but DC's animation by far and away is the best thing that they've ever done consistently well, all the way back to Batman the animated series and Superman the animated series and Justice League Unlimited and Static Shock and all of that. And then you had the Tuckerverse stuff with the New 52, which was fucking awesome. I loved those movies. And what I loved about it was it started off with Flashpoint and ended with Flashpoint. They obviously had a plan. They enacted that plan over a series, I think, of 14 movies, something like that. And all right, some of them were great, some of them were not so great, and some of them were just okay. But as a complete arc, they were consistent. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I think it's SnyderCon and the chance to see MOS, BVS, and ZSJL on the big screen. Someone was postulating. I was Mr. H. Mr. H was talking about this, and if only this was true, he was postulating maybe they're going to release those movies in the cinema on a limited release. Okay, well, this is what you want. This is let's put them back out there. Let's see what sort of response we get. And if they get an overwhelmingly positive response, then the game changes again, doesn't it? But I can't see James Gunn allowing that to happen, because the worst thing that could happen for James Gunn is exactly what happened to his predecessors when they opened the lid on the Snyder Cut. Obviously, it was leagues and far and away better than their ham-fisted attempts at whatever it was they were trying to do, marvelize the DC universe, and it made them look stupid. It just made them look like they'd just made bad call after bad call, and then it all came out that it was bad call after bad call. So the last thing James Gunn wants is is a re-release of those 3 movies, and they absolutely smash it at the box office. And the critics, on retrospect, having looked back at these, we realize that this is a misunderstood, that he just doesn't want misunderstood classic, and what the superhero genre needs these days, and over Marvel saturated, we need a thinking man deconstruction. That's he doesn't need that sort of press. But my god, if it was true, I'd go about 9 times. I really would. I'd go every night to watch him. But yeah, I think it's SnyderCon, and more behind the scenes stuff. But as Nick Kershaw said, wouldn't it be good if it was an announcement that they're doing an Elseworlds, and it was gonna, oh man, I just plats, to use a South Africanism. So there you go. I hope that answered your question, dude. What do
Well,
you think, RM?
yeah. What I think is that it's a fantasy to think that the people who are in charge right now will be there tomorrow or even a year from now. Nothing is set in stone until we actually see a movie. We don't know if any of these deals are going through, and it's always been like that in entertainment. Just because they may even have a contract, sometimes it doesn't mean that a film will be made. So I'm not surprised if something was thrown out. This was something that was talked about before about Netflix doing this. Um, why not? Why not Netflix doing something like this? They know they'll get the ratings for it because people will tune into it. Netflix has had a stellar year. They've been hosting All Quiet on the Western Front, which has won the BAFTAs, won a bunch of Academy Awards. Netflix is really doing very well when it comes to bringing entertainment that people want to see, and they keep going back to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this happened. And everything takes time. Netflix has to develop and grow. They're not like all the other studios necessarily. So when you talk about Netflix kind of taking over something or doing something, it's different for them. They don't have that huge studio system from what I'm aware of, right, Russ? They don't have that.
No, I think they license most of their stuff out, right? So
Yeah.
they don't have the studios, but they'll hire a studio to make something. I think that's how it works. I could be completely wrong on that. Um, but I've heard a lot of people saying, "Well, why would DC sell their biggest properties to Netflix?" Well, no, just to put this to bed once and for all, and I'm sure the educated people in our chat know this, but just to put that to bed once and for all, DC just sold but the Batman animated series to Amazon, one of their streaming competitors, because they don't feel it has a place on HBO Max. So no, they're not selling Batman to Amazon, and Batman are going to make a whole raft of Batman related projects. No, they're not going to do that. They're selling the rights for one story, one show, whatever it happens to be. They could easily license out that iteration of the multiverse, which we now know exists. And so, fine, the Zack Snyder multiverse is on Netflix. Shit, that would be awesome. That'd be so awesome. Oh god, it'd be so great. But I suspect if they're going to do it, they'll do it animated.
Yeah, and why not? Why not let them do it animated? If they want to do live action, they can. The sky's the limit for them. This article talks about how Zack Snyder knows exactly what he's doing with a single tweet, generates the amount of hype that will almost certainly be impossible to deliver on. Now, I don't know why they're saying it's impossible. Of course, we know nothing is impossible in this climate, this environment, the way entertainment has been working out. You can't discount things anymore. It says, here's the video, the full circle, hashtag full circle incoming transmission. It's since been retweeted a bunch of times and viewed 7 million times, which a lot of people are talking about. And I think it's great. I don't really think there is any problem with it. I think that Netflix certainly has the ability to do whatever they want. They don't have anybody telling them what they can and cannot do, which might be the advantage for Netflix, that there isn't anybody, in the studio saying, yeah, you can't do this. I think in the studio, there's a lot of people who say you can't. With Netflix, I don't believe that that's the case. I think that they have a much more, they have fewer people who can say, we can't do this, which might explain why it's so easy for them to pick up stuff. I love that they can pick up stuff and say, we're going to buy that for $22 million, or we're going to go ahead and buy this for 50 million. Like, can you imagine having that kind of power, saying that you could just pick up whatever you wanted? Ideally, you make a lot of these movie makers make a film and they want someone to pick up the film, but for distribution. But Netflix, even with the distribution of All Quiet, they had it available, at least in the United States, for viewing, but it was also in movie theaters and it turned a profit there. So, it's very interesting having a film go on Netflix, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to go in a theater, Russ.
Right. And I think those Snyder films especially need to be seen on a big screen. You know, I mean, this is where I come down on the Tom Cruise side of things. You know, when it comes to seeing things in the actual cinema theater, um, you know, they're just amazing. They've, you know, well, okay, let's all agree, like Zack Snyder can't write, whatever, but you know, everyone agrees that his visuals are brilliant. We'll go and see them. Go and see them. Um, and we'll see what happens if they do indeed release them. Yeah, we got some chats. Let's catch up. Hey, Stubble,
Hey,
how's it going, man?
how are you? And Tom talks about how he was surprised at Top Gun. Happy for Brendan Fraser. Definitely. There was a lot of wonderful things with Everything Everywhere all at once. Um, and Mario says, yeah, I'm sorry, that's something else. Stubble says, I
He's
hope.
talking about he doesn't think Snyderverse will happen, but you know, hope is the last thing to die. That's basically what he's saying there.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's chatter, there's hope. And sometimes there's hope even when there isn't. Stubble says, I hope David Sandberg lands on his feet. It's risky for new directors to do high profile movies early. There's a huge risk reward doing these movies. Yeah, definitely. And thank you.
Well, I haven't seen Shazam yet, right? And that speaks volumes because me and Sam always go and see a DC EU movie on the first day it comes out,
But you
and
haven't for this one.
haven't. I've got no
Oh,
hunger.
wow.
God, do you remember what I was like in the run up to the Snyder Cut coming out? I
Yes.
couldn't wait. I took a fucking day off work. So, you know, like, as it came out in stupid o'clock in England, you know, so the next morning, you know, I had it and I bought it on like 50 things. So I, you know, made sure I had it, you know, like, oh, well, I'll get it here and I'll order it here and I'll download it here and I'll do all that stuff. So I've got 3 or 4 copies of the Snyder Cut now, plus on 4K, which I don't own a 4K, but I've got it anyway. Um, yeah. And for this one, I'm just like, yeah, you know, and you can see they're getting desperate because they released the Gal Gadot, and this is no spoiler because they released it, the mid credits or the end credits scene with Wonder Woman in it, which turned out not to be Gal Gadot, turned out to be a deep fake of Gal Gadot. Um, you know, and that's a shame because I quite liked the first Shazam movie, but like Aquaman, it was a Marvel movie, and that's not the jam with DC. And I keep thinking that this decision to go back to golly gee Miss Lane, gee whiz Superman, and that tone for an interconnected universe, um, is a mistake. I do. I think people are over it, and you can see that people are over it because no one's going to see Ant-Man, no one's going to see Shazam. Will people turn up and see Aquaman? Not if the quality rumors are to be true, turn out to be true, and it's like the worst DC movie ever. You know, it's in its sixth iteration of reshoots and recuts now, and all the rest of it. And things are not looking good for this, like, you know, shiny, happy people holding hands. And that's what Marvel has given us consistently and consistently well. I've always said this. I love those films, but it ain't DC, and I think it's a mistake. That's what I think.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and talk about Shazam. Obviously, this tweet, I like tweets like this because there's a lot of excitement associated with them. Hello to Irene.
Hello, Irene.
How are you, Irene Johnson? You spent a good time amount with me this morning as I was playing Hogwarts Legacy, so it's good to see you. And Mario says, I really don't care that James Gunn is going to do with DC first, erase Star Wars Legends, and no, they are going to erase the
Well, they're not
Snyderverse.
though, are they? That's the whole point. They're not erasing the Snyderverse. He's just choosing which bits of it he wants, which are none of the bits that anybody wants. I.e., and he's actually, you know, he's been a bit triggered because people are taken into task now on Twitter. You know, it's kind of like inviting the paparazzi into your life to get your profile up, but then it just all becomes too much. And I rather feel now that this has all become too much because people are going, "Why are you putting your wife in everything?" And he's like, "Dude, I never put my wife in anything. I only cast her in one thing, and it's not my call." And blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, F you, dude. Everybody knows what you're doing. You're keeping Peacemaker, the one that has your wife in it. You're keeping the Suicide Squad. Oh, what, the one that you directed? You might be keeping Gal Gadot because that film made. In fact, you're just getting rid of Henry Cavill is what you're doing, and you're keeping pretty much everything. At Waller, who fucking cares about a show about Waller? Like literally, that's your big statement. Creature Commandos and Waller. Are you going to kick off your new DCEU? Seriously, dude. Like nobody wants this. And there's the minority of people on social media that just like to go at Snyder fans. Yeah, oh yeah, I can't wait for the Waller show. And it's like, well, really, is anybody going to watch that? No.
Yeah, it does feel like it comes out of nowhere. Another thing that I would like to say is that I like her when she's just being her normal self. I don't know whether we need to see a big show about it. We did see a lot about Waller and her daughter in Peacemaker, so I don't think we need to explore any more. I think it's enough. We don't need to go even deeper into her life. She's great when she's commanding and telling these superheroes what to do. Everybody loves when she goes in there and kind of tells them, let's get down to business, and you're not going to be able to do whatever you want to do. I'm the boss.
Yeah,
Although,
she's a great character. Or everybody loves Amanda Waller as a side character, but that's what she is. Yeah, she's a
absolutely,
side character, right? She's not
she
a,
is.
you're not going to be driving past Kingston Odie and look up and see a big picture. What's the actress's name? So it's completely out of my head.
You mean Viola Davis?
Viola Davis. Big, huge picture of Viola Davis in her blue suit with Waller written underneath it in big letters.
Well,
But fuck me, I've got to go and see that. That's just like, that's the movie event.
you're right. However, she will be continuing to get leading roles going forward. She had a huge leading role with the Woman King, and there's more in the works for her, I believe. So she's fine. Like
Well,
Viola
she's
Davis
fine,
is
but I'm not particularly
great.
rushing to HBO Max or the cinema to go and see a film starring Amanda Waller
That's
because
what ever
she's
gets
a side
me,
character.
honestly. Like I said, when I first saw that lineup in the list of things that were supposed to be coming down the pike, I wasn't that confident, and I'm still not that confident that they can be made, because it's not like we had the old school climate of where things got signed and they got made. It's not like that anymore. They
Mm.
pulled a $90 million film the other day. Anything can happen. We know, just because it even gets made, it may not ever even see the light of day.
Do you think this is like another sort of Disney announcement where you've got literally the
Yes.
show you always wanted about Luke Skywalker's grandma, and here it is. This is about her starting that moisture evaporator farm that she hands down to, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and that whole. It's essentially like a farm story. No, and they've got all of these things, and then like one gets made, which is the Mandalorian, right? What happened to Rebel pilots and all of those things? They didn't happen. Maybe it's going to be like that. Who
Well, they
knows?
didn't even have, there were a lot of things that they were missing, but, they felt the need to declare that they were doing these things. And there might have been a need to declare it so that they could get more funding from private investors and make it sound like they were doing more than they were, so they could get more money from private investors for these developments. Even if they made them or not, as far as they're concerned, it went into their bank account and they don't care whether it actually gets made. That's how I see it.
True
Um,
say.
and Lugnut 6, hi Lugnut 6. Hello to you, says hello to the beautiful, sensual, heavenly, diamond, paradise, love, 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 and the man, the myth, the champion of Sunday, Super Russ.
Wicked. Well, thank you, Lugnuts. I'm normally, hungover or not well on a Sunday, but today I feel tickety boo. So yeah, I am kind of super rust today, at least for myself. But thank you. You're too kind.
I love it, Lug Nuts. I absolutely love how you're talking to me. Stubble says, if there's one streamer I would turn on to, it would be Netflix. Their release model makes it not essential to watch their content at once. Okay. Sure. I mean, I hear you. We also have Bonzo Kilborn, who says the hope of his acolyte is indestructible.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that. It kind of feels like more desperation than hope a lot of the time.
The director said they did have Gal in it. The double was just to figure out the shots, but they went back and shot with Gal. The fact that we're even having to have this, I'm sorry, the fact that we're even having to have this discussion I think we realize that they don't have all their shit together. Things are not in order the way it should be. What do you think, Russ?
Okay, I didn't know this, Bonzo. I just saw the one article on it yesterday, which I read. But I've been really busy lately, doing a lot of writing actually. So I haven't really been spending too much time um, social or YouTubing and stuff like that. In fact, I barely got The Last of Us finished in time for today's show, so that'll tell you.
Well, I like a Lugnut6 who says Netflix and chill, but if you chill way too much, you might get who lose. And Irene Jobson says tickety boo.
Mm.
Tickety
Yeah,
clack.
Irene asked a question earlier on. What part of
Yes,
London what part of London am I from?
yes.
I'm from a place called Hounslow, which is in West London, which is about 6 miles away from Heathrow Airport. But I moved many years ago to a place called Ham, which is a funny name, but it's in between two towns. One's called Richmond upon Thames, and one's called Kingston upon Thames, which you might have heard of. In fact, King Athelstan of England was crowned in Kingston, hence Kingstown. But yeah, I live there now, which is about 9 miles away from Heathrow and about 9 miles away from the centre of London. So there you go. That's where I'm from.
Fantastic, Russ. Thank you for letting us know that. And yeah, it is kind of odd, I think, that we should even have to have the discussion and confusion around something like this, which should have been easy peasy for them to do once the film came out. Should have been, yeah, we have this person. We hope you enjoy it. Why are we getting so much confusion these days, Russ, with something as simple as whether an actress is or isn't in a film?
Um, I think it's just the era in which we live, isn't it? In the olden days of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, before the advent of social media and internet, we didn't know anything, and we took pretty much anything we were told as read. But now there's so many leaks, so many scoopers, so many things going out. The underpants of the studios have been revealed, or the look behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz has all been revealed. So these things get leaked out, and it's like, well, who's this girl? Why are we doing this then? And that gets out on the internet, and then a whole narrative, be it true or not, is built up around it. But yeah, it was a good spot by Bonzo because I didn't know that.
Yeah, and of course, Russ, you'd already mentioned Shazam being in the box office. This is somewhat of a more positive article about it, where they said that it opens business with 11 million opening day, which
Mm,
is not necessarily, I guess, maybe what they were hoping for. I don't know. Here we can kind of see some shots from the film, but it says they got 11 million opening day. That includes 3 million on Thursday previews, which is incredibly low, Russ.
mm,
I'm very surprised, but that's okay. It says that they are opening in 4,000 theaters. That's a good chunk of theaters. And it says that they will likely struggle to reach a 30 million debut. Did they reach a 30 million debut? I don't know anybody who's even seen this film.
but one
Uh,
interesting little stat is Black Adam's made more in the
yeah.
amount of time it's come out. So what does that tell you?
Well,
Um,
they say that it says the Flash was conceived before Saffron and Gunn's tenure, but to be honest with you, it's still going to fall on their shoulders. I don't think they can go ahead and say, "Well, I wasn't here when this was conceived." Like, I don't think that kind of comment is even going to fly at this point, Russ. For a lot of these directors and studio guys who are in charge now, I mean, do you think they're going to keep saying that? And even though, you
well, I
know,
think. Sorry.
go ahead.
I think they're in an impossible situation, those two, aren't they? Because they've got three legacy movies that they have to deal with, and they literally can't turn around and say, "Look, don't bother seeing these; they're bollocks. Just wait till the new Superman comes out, and everything will start again." Which I think even the most ardent of Snyder fans would wear if they said, all that stuff we said about, so actually we're not going to do that. We're starting off. This is our first movie in our first new universe, and this is Superman, and I'd wear it if they did that. But this halfway house path that they've chosen, as what's his name, the guy that's taken it to court, Aaron Fisher, who's a commentator, a retro, listens to him a lot. he actually said, he basically coined it. He just said, this decision, and we can all see it. It's just keeping the fan base divided. It's just keeping everybody at each other's throats all the time about their preferred vision for the thing. So you've got people trolling the Snyder fans, and the Snyder fans going, "No, we want our. If you're going to do our thing, do our thing. Don't give us half of our thing." And I'm often on Reddit looking at this. I don't comment on it because that's a hiding to nothing. But you know, it is. You can see every single day there is numerous posts on the groups that I follow on Reddit trolling Snyder fans. Literally, that's just a thing now where they keep bringing it up, and you got to think, well, why? We're living in your head rent free at this point, but there it is.
Well, Tom Jr. Jackson says, I went Friday morning. It was a fun movie. And he
Uh,
says, you see, box office doesn't bother or matter to me. What I care about is what I enjoy. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
that's just true, Tom. This is absolutely true. I couldn't give a shit how much money a film makes as long as I enjoy it. That's all I particularly care about. But if I want to see more of it, then you do have to care about the box office, because if these things are ultimately proven to be not profitable, they just won't make them anymore. And I fear that that's the path that we're going down. I mean, what's next for Marvel? What are they bringing out next? What what's happening in the superhero sphere at the moment is it's starting to, everyone knows this happens with genres. It's starting to tail off. Like, the interest just isn't there. The hype isn't there, because we've really, with especially certainly with Marvel, we've reached a point of oversaturation. This isn't me with my brand new insightful take. Everybody knows this. So the fact that a film a sequel to a film that was massively successful, and Shazam was, well, not massively, but pretty successful, is tanking essentially, is not great news. I'm sure Aquaman will do fine because it will be shirtless Jason Momoa, and that will get couples to the cinema, and so on
Yeah,
and so on.
it will.
It will,
It
right?
will look at
But
couples in cinema. Bonzo Kilborn says Shazam looks meh, and so many of these comic book movies have come out short. People are getting over them quickly.
yeah,
I
because they don't
re-
say anything, Bonzo. That's always been the point, isn't it? There's always been the big talking points on Snyder's movie. People talk about them, whether they like them or didn't like them. People are still arguing. Like, I'm still talking about it on Reddit, right? Or I'm not, but people are talking about it on Reddit. You know, to this day, whether it's a bastardization and an abomination, or whether it's the greatest thing of all time. But you go and see a Marvel film, and you go and see a current DC movie, and you've literally forgotten about it by the time you got out of the pizza place on the way back. And Black Adam was really like that. I mean, I remember you asked me, what did you think about it? I said, well, that was a movie, and it did everything that you expect from a three-act movie. It was literally the Blake Snyder beat sheet 101, that film, and you could see how heavily it had been censored and edited, and the violence cut and all of that stuff. And it was a movie, and me and Sam went to see it, and we're just like, oh, did you like that? And she said, well, the soundtrack was really good, and the only thing we were there to see was the last 10 seconds. We just, hey, Jamin. Um, that's why we were there, and that was like, the best 10 seconds we'd had since the release of Snyder Cut. But anyway,
and Dino Dinosaur says, I can see Ezra being the only Snyderverse character kept on by Gunn.
what, just to troll everybody.
I think no one is safe. I just don't believe that he really has made up his mind, and it changes from day to day. And it goes from to what they think or predict might give them the results they're hoping for. And if it doesn't, they're happy to boot the person out. I don't think they have any kind of loyalty or anything like that to this situation. To be honest with you, that's at least how I view it. Yeah. Um, and Darth Plato says Russ wasn't smelling what The Rock was cooking.
Wow, dude, I completely was. I totally was. I was all in. I was happy that he was involved because I knew he had a lot of power, and I knew that he was a big fan of what Zach had done and what Henry had done and all of this kind of stuff. I was Team Rock, totally Team Rock. I didn't care that it was a bit, "Meh," because it was, phase one of the new DCU, and that was going to kick it off. And Henry was back, and it was all good and fine. It's okay. It's fine. It's an average, bang average 3-star movie, not even 2.5 stars. Whatever. Um, so I was all in. So I was at that barbecue, and all right, maybe the first round of burgers were a bit underdone. However, I was ready to get my ex-wife, South African Sal, on that barbecue because she can bry up a fucking storm, let me tell you. And we would have been there at that barbecue all year. But unfortunately, um, Gunn just couldn't have. My theory is Gunn just couldn't have The Rock there, and I get it from Gunn's perspective. You don't want, and I've said this before on here. For me, this decision about Henry was less to do with Henry and more to do with The Rock towering over you in every meeting going, well, how does that work for Black Adam? And where does Black Adam fit into this? And what about my character? And where's Henry? Why aren't you doing every decision you make is going to be second. Why are we having a Waller show? We don't need a Waller show. We need a Supergirl show. We need a Power Girl show. We need this. We need a Black Adam. We need a Black Adam and Isis prequel series. He's going to get that in his ear constantly. So he's like, no, fuck this. I don't need that guy. I think that to me makes more logical sense because everybody loves Henry Cavill. Even James Gunn must love Henry Cavill, right? Because he's such a lovable guy. So it can't be, oh, I don't like Henry Cavill, I'm not having it. I can't imagine that would be the case.
Well, we also and hello, Mighty Orbots. I hope
Hey,
you are well today. It says, brace yourselves. Bonzo Kilborn just saw Black Adam a week ago and thought it had potential, but needed a better villain. And we have this article here. Bonzo, a lot of people would agree with you on that about Ben Affleck won't direct Batman for Gunn's new DC universe. Absolutely not. I'm just going to read a little bit of this about not being interested in joining as a director. And he confirms he won't direct for the DC universe. And obviously in the interview where he talks about this, I would not direct something for a Gunn, absolutely not. And he says something about interest in directing a movie the way they're doing that. I'm sure he's doing a great job. He really feels like he wants to wash his hands of this. Is it the chaos? Is it the chaos of what it feels very chaotic? It doesn't feel like things are, kind of the way they should. I don't know. Russ, is it just me or do things feel a little all over the place?
who knows if they're all over the place or not? But this article, I don't know what outlet you're on there, but the whole article in and of itself was hugely revealing about where Ben Affleck stands. And of course, the anti-Snyder people are going, see, he's completely done. And the article absolutely says the opposite of that. He talks about they've cherry picked that particular quote, which is fine, but the context around all of that is he's basically saying that Justice League. I said, well, I'm going to call it Justice League and Justice League for clarity. Justice League, he said, was the worst experience of his life. He was back in London on his own, getting pissed in the hotel room, literally wanting to throw himself out the window at some points. He was miserable. He was hot. He was sweaty. He was out of shape. It was just crap. He said the guy came on. We had to do 60 more days or whatever it was. We were going to do this. We were going to do that. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. And it was crap. He said, but here's the thing. Now, then Zack Snyder calls me up going, hey, man, listen, I've just been to Warner Brothers and they're kind of, I've got 4 hours of content to do. Do you want to come and do a scene in my back garden? And Ben Affleck's like, well, Zack, surely there's unions. Like, we have to make a deal. And Zack's like, oh, fuck that. Like, just come over. We're just going to do one scene. So he goes over to Zack Snyder's house and films a scene for Zack Snyder. All right. He then goes on to appear in the Flash with the proviso, I'm imagining that this stuff is going to continue. And there he is in the trailer with Jason Momoa, and Jason Momoa drops it as huge news. And we all know that Henry shot a cameo for the Flash. We all know that Gal shot a cameo and now all of a sudden all of that's been expunged. Then, as part of that, he's talking about, and then they say, "Oh, would you direct something for the DCU?" Now, Gunn a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago released a tweet going, "Yeah, we're talking to Ben. Yeah, we just find the right project for him. Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, he's on board." And then he turns around and goes, "No, I'd never do anything for them. I don't like what they're doing." Is essentially what he's saying is, I have looked at these because I can't imagine James Gunn is just lying about meeting with Ben Affleck. I can't imagine he just made that shit up. Like he clearly met with the guy and said, "Okay, have this is the direction that we're going in." And oh golly, Miss Lane, and a sort of 60s esque or Brave and the Bold esque, Brave and the Bold cartoon esque Brave and the Bold movie, with kind of Damien and kid friendly and all that. And he's like, no, this is literally not my vision for the Batman. His Batman screenplay, everybody has said that's read it is the greatest Batman thing that has ever been done ever, and it literally was the deconstruction of Batman in the movie, whereby Slade goes around killing Robin and killing Alfred and killing Vicky Vale and just anyone that's connected with Bruce Wayne, he takes out, destroys the man's life. I mean, the man goes into the dark. Now you got to remember at this point, Ben was struggling with alcohol and all the rest of it, so he was in a dark place himself, and he takes Batman into that dark place with him. It's almost like the writer of Conan, Robert E. Howard, like you could see the silhouette of Conan behind him, forcing him to write. Seems like the same sort of thing. This is a dark movie, so he's interested in plumbing the depths of Batman's psychosis and what effect, how mad would this make him, and where would he go if Slade did all of this stuff. But hey, now no, we got Damian Wayne and golly gee, Miss Lane Clark. That ain't what Ben Affleck wants to do with his superhero stories. If he's going to do it, he wants to do something dark. He wants to do something. So he wants to do the Snyderverse because clearly he'll get out of bed for that and he'll get in shape for that. Look at the state of him in the trailer for the Flash. He looks fucking amazing. Yeah, he'll do that, but he won't do this, which doesn't bode well, does it?
Yeah, and it kind of shows maybe a lack of confidence. Like I said, it feels things do kind of feel very up in the air in a way that I can't describe, maybe even more than during the pandemic. Sometimes this can happen, especially on Wall Street, where there can be a vote of no confidence or a lack of confidence, and even in a production team. And it's a big problem where even the actor is like, yeah, I know I could do this and I'd be great at it, but I just don't want to, and the reasons could be various ones, not because it was harmful to them, but because they just they're not motivated to do it. That's the worst thing, is the not having that motivation, which they should be excited about making a film. And the excitement isn't there. Lugnut6 says, by the way, can't wait for the sequel to Cocaine Bear, which he's calling Sloth Bear or Methamphetamine Moth. It's going to be, I heard people enjoyed it. It's got mixed reviews on that, and I still haven't seen it. But Dark Plato goes on to say that the depiction of Black Adam in DC Comics is very similar to Marvel's Doctor Doom. It is kind of interesting to kind of see these responses. And to be honest with you, Russ, yeah, it's not as exciting as when Gunn first jumped on board. That excitement for me is not there. And even with like I said, and you had mentioned, even with the Disney list, the endless list of projects coming up, that excitement isn't there. It's not anything I can exactly explain for myself. I'm sure there's someone who cannot wait for every single one of those. But for me, the excitement isn't what it should be, at the level that it should be, because I do unfortunately have this feeling he's not going to be even able to accomplish half of what's on there. If he can do it, God bless him for doing it, but I'm not as confident.
He even says that this is like only half of phase one. It's like half. So what else we got? Constantine, Zatanna, who knows what he thinks he's going to do. But the big problem is, and we said it, and it's not just about one actor, it's about announcing that one actor and everybody's happy, everybody's made up. Snyder fans, non-Snyder fans, DC fandom is like, yes, this is great, we don't have to have that Snyder crap anymore, we can finally give Henry Cavill the Superman movie he deserves. Oh no,
Yeah.
no, you're not having that. No, forget that. I've been writing this for 6 months. Forget him. My ideas. No, your idea is not better.
Well, Russ, yeah, let's see what happens with that. Have you had a chance to watch The Mandalorian episode 3?
No, I haven't. I was catching up with the Last of Us.
Well, do you want to talk about The Last of Us first?
Sure.
Okay.
When Gunn announces an actor, it has to be unknown, Dino. Like it's got to be an unknown. That's the blueprint. anybody else that's known is it's like when they were thinking of casting Stallone as Superman, and then they were thinking about casting Paul Newman and God knows who else at the time, and it's like no, because that's Sylvester Stallone, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can't do that. You need somebody that's gonna embody the role of Superman, and they'll do a good job. Like they've consistently always picked good people to be Superman since the 70s, especially in the cinema. Um, so
Exactly.
yeah,
It's interesting how attached people are to Cavill, and I don't think it's something that's going to go away because I've been attached to Cavill for so long, and rightfully so. No Cavill, no sale.
mm,
Uh, it's something that's not going to go away. But we were talking about The Last of Us, and it says here, The Last of Us finale, who is the real villain in season one, which was something that a lot of people were asking about the Joel character and his role with Ellie. And of course, many of you, I guess it's over a week now. So I don't feel like it's the biggest thing, but we will talk about spoilers for The Last of Us here. And pretty much what's happened in the story is that Joel has to do something to save Ellie's life. And there's been a lot of discussion about it. And even the question of even the question of whether or not it was right or wrong has come up a lot, and that's what the game and the show is supposed to evoke about how you feel about this. Russ, would you have made the same decision that Joel made to save Ellie?
would I?
Yes.
Phew, I don't know. I was thinking about that when I was watching the show. Like it's the impossible choice. Um, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Right? That's got to be it. And it's easier to say when you're sort of coldly dispassionate about it. But if it was me and Sam, then absolutely not. I don't kill anybody that tried to hurt her. Um,
Yeah, and I can see that. I totally agree with that. I think what's interesting is that she's still a child. This is not an adult. The girl in this character, she's not an adult. She's 14. So it would be different if she was 20 or something and she's walking into this, realizing what it's going to mean. But they even kind of lied to her. She didn't know that by undergoing this operation is going to kill her, or she'd be lobotomized or whatever it is. So I think that if she had known that, her response might have been different, but she's not an adult. So the responsibility and the decision falls on Joel. She can't make that decision. And
mm,
for all practical purposes, it seems like Marlene is her guardian anyway, but then Joel takes over as the guardian.
quite.
So now, but Marlene, by letting Joel take her cross country, it's almost like, she lost control of the situation, if you will. But I don't know any mother who would do that to her own child, just between you and me, Russ.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, obviously, I can see in the chat here. Yeah, that's not his daughter, but the whole point of those scenes where he finally opens up to her and sort of says, well, it wasn't me really deciding to talk. He's basically admitting to her that she has, if not replaced, because no one would ever replace his actual daughter, but she's fulfilled that role, and he is fulfilling the father role to her. And they've come to care for each other and love each other deeply, and they could never be separated and all of that kind of thing. So you can see why he made that decision. It's what side of the moral fence you come down on with that. And as I said, it's really easy to sit here and go, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, when it's not your kid.
well, how about we think about it? How about we change it? Let's say Ellie is 25 years old and she's an adult now.
But then Ellie can make her own decision.
Yeah, and I think that it wouldn't have worked with the game or in the TV show, because then it would have been like, okay, I'm just making the sacrifice. And it's like, okay, you're making a sacrifice, end of story. There's nothing that controversial about somebody saying, hey, if you give up your life, you could save 1 billion people. All right, then give me the tablet. I'll take it. I'll do it. I think a lot of people would go ahead and do it as a grown up, but it just seems inconceivable for her to make that, or anybody to go ahead and say she can go ahead and make that decision as a little girl, which she is. She looks like a little girl, honestly. I mean, the actress I think is older, but honestly, she still looks like a child, doesn't she, Russ?
Yeah, she looks really young. I mean, she is pretty young. She's not 19 years old. She's still a kid, really, isn't she? Um, but yeah, I mean, so overall, yeah, that's it, Bonzo. Yeah, there was no guarantee, but even so, um, I think any dad would have made that decision. I don't think he's particularly unique in that. But what did you think are of the final three episodes of the Last of Us?
I thought they were great. And I do just want to I want to read to this comments for Darth Plato because Darth Plato and I have been talking about this
Mm,
a lot, and I think it's very interesting because I don't have any children. You actually are a dad. You have a
mm,
kid, so I'm not going to pretend like I know what it's like to have a kid. I'm not going to do that. If I adopted a child, I could go ahead and say, yeah, I have a kid, and I get that, but I don't have any, so I'm not going to go ahead and like. For me personally, I can't understand what that might be like. But I get, I think it's very interesting, this dynamic of looking at family in this story, the idea of family and why it's needed in this story. Joel needs to care for someone. So when she came around and he started to care for her the way he has, and we had the beautiful scene with the giraffe, and it was just kind of like these beautiful moments that both of them shared, it became very apparent that he's not going to be able to kind of let her go. And I think that although it wasn't said initially in the story when he delivered her to the hospital, Russ and everybody, that he was willing to just go ahead and deliver her and do that, I think he had already made up his mind before he arrived at the hospital that he wasn't going to let them take her. I think he brought her there. This is just, he followed through the motions. I don't think he could have taken Ellie somewhere else and Ellie would have said, well, what's going on? Why aren't I going to the hospital? I think that it had to play out in this way. He had to kind of neutralize who was looking for her, and they may continue to look for her. I don't know what they're going to do in the story. You see, they could change things around where it's not neutralized and they're still looking for Ellie, which I think would be perfect for the show. But Bonzo says there's no guarantee the doctor was going to even be able to make the cure work. Time to go, Johnny Rambo. Thank you, Bonzo. And it's true, Darth Plato. She's her substitute daughter. Yes. Yeah, Darth Plato. That is something to think about. But you also make a good point about Marlene just being upfront about it. We really need her, and she may die from this thing. This may kill her.
yeah, logically, yeah. Like Joel should have been in the picture.
But Joel's not stupid.
No,
Marlene knows Joel
but
isn't stupid.
Joel also didn't care at the beginning. But if you take that to its logical conclusion, once the relationship with Ellie starts to develop, then there's no fucking way he's going to take her to that. They would have just stayed at Tommy's, and that would have been the end of the show. So I kind of disagree with what you were saying there. I think as far as do you want to do this one? Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish saying what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
as far as this goes, taking her to the hospital, no, Joel was all in. I mean, he seemed to me to be absolutely fine with it. Because as far as he was concerned, it's her blood, and it's just going to be a couple of blood samples. They're going to do some blood work, and they're going to, extract whatever. And then Marlene turns around and goes, "Well, it's because of the cordyceps. Think that it's a cordyceps, and that's why she's." And he's like, "Yeah, hold on, that grows in your brain." And she's like, "Yeah, it does. I'm sorry." It's only then that he realizes they're going to lobotomize her and basically kill her
Yeah.
to get this stuff out. So I up until that point, he's all in, on the mission.
I thought he changed his mind. I could be wrong, but I thought he changed his mind in the episode with that point with the giraffes because I think I think he realized that Ellie still wants to have these beautiful experiences of what it's like to be a young adult, growing into a young woman. And that moment with the giraffes kind of was that scene where he would have had so many moments with let's
Yes,
say Ellie. And
I
once he had
I
that
agree.
moment with her, he was like, okay, I'm taking her to this hospital, but he started to have doubts at that point. At least that's what I thought. I could be wrong. I don't know. But
I think, yeah, I think what we have to agree to disagree. You're right in my book. Yes, he can see her having all these wonderful experiences, right? Then he's told they're going to kill her and lobotomize her, and all of those things that they've done and shared, like the giraffes and all that. He's thinking she's they're going to take all that away on the off chance that, killing my daughter might work out in a kid. Well, no, no, that doesn't fly. But I think up until that point, he's just thinking, yeah, take some blood and we'll get her home. We'll go straight back to Tommy's. That was the plan. Yeah, we'll get done here with these people, and we're back off to Tommy's. And she's go, oh, back to the sheep branch or whatever it was. And all of that stuff. As far as they're all concerned, it's just a quick job, and we'll be gone by morning. And then it turns out no, and that's when he goes Johnny Rambo.
Yeah, and Irene says that 25 is when your brain is fully developed according to human development.
I
Yeah,
don't even know
absolutely.
about that, Irene. I'm 52, dude, and it's just not working. I still feel like I'm 17.
And Darth Plato makes a good point about not just a cure to save people, a cure for the zombie apocalypse. Absolutely, Darth Plato. Yeah, there's a lot at stake in this, and yeah, there is some, I guess, plasticity. It is something to think about. Yeah, Tom Jr. Jackson makes a good point about her trying to use her blood to save someone and nothing had happened. Yeah, there's
Absolutely that happened. But you'd be, if it was me, like I was asked earlier on, what would you do, Russ? Well, if it was me, I'd be thinking, well, yeah, but they're scientists, man. I mean, it's not like if I cut a hole in a sheep's back and cut myself, that sheep doesn't become like a vampiric Rush sheep. It just doesn't work like that. They have to extract the proteins or the DNA or whatever it is they're going to do, and that's what I would be thinking. Not the blood to blood transfusion works. It's not a transfusion. It's a genetic strain, I guess, that they were looking for. That's what my headcanon would be saying.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about fungus to go ahead and give a qualified answer. I know you probably would need a fungus to fight a fungus. But I don't know. So, to be honest with you, I haven't done any studies about that. I mean, I know what you would have to do to find out the answer, but I'm not going to go ahead and say I'm an expert on that. I haven't studied that, so I don't know. What I do know is that it was very interesting to see when Joel busted into the hospital room where Ellie is anesthetized. And, pretty much the doctors are maybe shocked. This happens actually in the video game. In the video game, you actually have to kill the doctors to get to Ellie. And, it's like you stand there, you'd be standing there and playing the game. It's one of the most interesting things I think they did with the game, because it had to kind of, show, because I think what happens is, once he takes Ellie out of the room, Marlene goes and finds the doctors have been killed, and she's like, "What's going on? Who killed the doctor?" She knows immediately what happened, because if he had just taken Ellie, I think that it might not have sent the message of like, this isn't ever going to happen, Marlene. And she would have kept coming after him. This was something else that I wanted to mention. Marlene would have continued to come after him and to come after Ellie. I just don't think it's over. I think Marlene might have shared these plans with someone. Tom mentions that The Last of Us season 2 said that they are going to make changes as well. Absolutely. And Darth Plato says, so Joel kills everyone, so kids risk zombification. Well, we don't really know whether it would have been successful. It was a long shot.
My question to Darth Plato is that, does he have kids? Because if you do, then that's that's great. That's a decision that you would make, and it's certainly not a decision I would make. I just wouldn't make that. I wouldn't make that decision with my 15-year-old daughter to hand her over to medical science in the off chance that it might work. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either.
A million times no. I just wouldn't.
Even if I knew it would work, I don't think I would. I would just wait and see if she wants to make that decision. That's how I would handle it. Rogue Thinker says, "Good. I'd wait till she was 25, Irene.
There you go.
Would be fully developed, and then we could cross that road." Rogue Thinker says, "Good morning. How's everyone?" Hi, Rogue Thinker.
Hey,
and also, yes, he was executing people. I thought that was really interesting to see that. But I also liked Russ seeing Joel go into full on, like special forces mode, where he's like, he's immediately in action, and he's got a mission. He's got to get her out of there. The mission has switched. He's got to get her out. He gets her out of it. It was so satisfying to see that scene. I enjoyed that part of the game and watching it on screen so much, Russ, even though we didn't get as many clickers. Now, this is something that's really interesting. You want a clicker at your party because he's a fun guy. Sorry, to be honest with you, Stubble.
A fun guy. I get it, Stubble.
Listen, people are saying that there were not enough zombie scenes. There were not enough clicker scenes. And for some, if you play the game, there was a ton of clicker scenes. Like, you're constantly fighting these clickers. But in this particular thing, it's like we didn't really get a lot of that. And that's fine. but we didn't get a lot of it. So people were like, well, I would have really liked if there were more clickers and zombies to worry about. It seemed like the human threat was the one that was more risky. What do you think, Russ? Did it seem in at least the way that they adapted this series that the human threat was more dangerous than the zombie one?
I just I I just don't think that's the story that they were particularly telling, and the clickers in that almost seemed like a sort of plot device in order to get stuff to happen, and that's absolutely fine. It was more of a human drama and how humans deal with the apocalypse. You had the story with the gay guys on their little housing estate where they stayed and had like an idyllic lifestyle, and then you've got Tommy's lot, and then you got raiders, and then you got fireflies, and then you've got Fedra and all of that, and it's more about how people would react to it, and with the clickers as this sort of like omnipresent threat that's always out there. If you go into the wrong place, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And here it says, Jamin D, I think if a scientist or person who was hoping for world to change was escorting Ellie would have made different choice. But Joel as character, or at least in the game, never had any desire. Yeah, he didn't. He wasn't necessarily an altruistic character for the world, which most people would not be. There, that's just maybe not the case for everyone. We can't assume that they would. Darth Plato says, again, Joel isn't dad. Well, I think after a while he does become her father, her adopted
Yeah, that's that's
father,
that's the
Darth Vader.
dynamic.
So
And
as far
I
as I'm
say again, if
concerned,
you have
it's
kids,
not
then you'll
biological.
understand why he
Yeah.
makes that choice, and if you don't, then fine, you don't understand that's choice. But repeating he's not the dad is not the point of that show. That point of that show, which is illustrated, I think, in the last episode, when they have that conversation and he admits that he was the one that tried to kill himself, and he admits that her coming into his life has given him a purpose to live for, and all that stuff, and her sort of admitting the same thing, is tacit agreement that they have a father-daughter relationship, and for this he will not stand.
Yeah, and Irene, thank you, Irene. You're cracking me up. Nobody is touching my baby or babies, I should say. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it's funny because in the game you're not given a choice. You have to make this decision. This is
Mm.
the decision you make. It's a given that that's a decision that's going to be made. So you don't get to choose, which I also thought was very interesting. That you don't get a choice here. Um, So, it is kind of interesting with that. And guys, there will be amusings, excuse me, Let's Get Physical Media today. God bless them. For Robert, we'll be doing a Let's Get Physical
Hmm.
Media. And of course, Tom is talking about the prequel show about
Did we
Ellie.
really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Um,
um
he said we almost got one. I'm not surprised that they did it. I guess they could. They might as well milk this. Everybody kind of loves this story, and I think overall the perception of this show was, maybe people enjoyed it. It wasn't like the most amazing show. People didn't respond like they did to House of the Dragon. It wasn't anything like there. They kind of made it a little less brutal, except for maybe the scene where she has to fight those guys while Joel is in recovering from his wounds.
mm.
So, Bonzo says, I'm not a dad, but I wouldn't just turn over my family member, Junior Frankenstein, to the off chance that he's hit on it. Okay. And Irene says, haha, RM, I know what you mean. God bless, because he's been awake more than he's been asleep. Yeah. These are just, some thoughts. I mean, it's great that a show can evoke people asking a question, was this the right decision? I do love that it gets to a point to that, but the story was written so that the person who's playing would say, fuck no, you're not going to kill my kid. I'm getting her out of here. You guys can go, F off.
Yeah,
That's what
right.
the intention of this
But in
video.
the game, can you not?
No, you have no choice.
You have to shoot the doctor. You can't
Yeah,
just say, okay,
you
fine, I'm
have
going to
to.
save the world.
That's not a decision that you can refuse.
Hmm.
You have to go through with it. And it is Joel's story of what he decided to do there. And I think it was very interesting to see it play out in live action. So
I have a
yeah,
question
yeah,
about the game.
this is really good. Irene says, I'm not sure if it was the right decision, but it's the decision I'd make. And this is really interesting because
Mm.
I think most people would say this. I think it is very interesting and very thought provoking that a show can get you to the point of asking this question.
Right, and Irene's absolutely nailed it there. It's absolutely the wrong decision. absolutely the wrong decision. To, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That's absolutely a fact, and it absolutely should. If there's as Ben Affleck says in Batman versus Superman, if there's even a 1% chance, then we should treat it as absolute fact. And it's kind of like, yeah, well, we've got a chance here. We need to investigate. Yeah, right up until it's your kid, and then all of a sudden the game's changed. And I think that's the moral quandary that the show puts you in. And here we are talking about it a week after the event, because I've only just got up with it. I apologize. But yeah, I have a question about the game though. The the preceding episode, where Joel's injured and on the way to recovery,
Yes.
and you have this preacher and his flock, that go out and hunt them. Was that in the game?
Yes, but I don't remember all the particulars of it, meaning I don't remember everything. The one thing that I do remember from the game about that scene was that she did have to fight off the preacher in that, restaurant.
Yeah.
And if she didn't get it right, if she didn't kill him, then she would die and Joel would die, and that
You
would be the end of
see,
the game.
the last three episodes of The Last of Us, whilst epic and good and engaging and had me absolutely hooked, I started to notice, and I haven't watched any media on this, so this is literally my hot take. I haven't seen any other YouTubers, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and if whatever. But these are my honest thoughts about it. Having knowing what I know about Mr. Druckmann and his particular worldview, I started to notice very, very, very obvious and ham-fisted socio-political commentary coming into the show, which hadn't really been there up until the last three episodes. So, in the flashback episode, with Ellie and her to-be girlfriend that was never, we never saw to fruition, when they go to the shopping mall, the amount of times they use the F word, and I'm not talking about the swear word. I'm talking about the ones that was popularized by those chaps in Germany in the 30s. Yeah, because Fedra's an F organization, and Fedra's F, and they're all F, and they're all F, and F, and F, and F, and F, and F. No, they're not. They're totalitarianism, but they're not Fs, right? But we're getting the F word hammered in. Yes, they are, because knowing Druckmann as we do, that is his soapbox that he's going to get on. Then we have the relationship. Then in the second, in this is what I wanted to know about the preacher. So now we have the Christian guy and his flock, but oh no, look, the Christians, well, they're all evil, they're all cannibals, and the main man himself, this representative of Christianity, guess what he likes to do with teenage girls, and it all got a little bit like that. And for me, knowing what I know about The Last of Us 2 doesn't bode well for the direction of the underlying social commentary in the show, which up until those last three episodes had been, it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there for me at all. Like there was the one episode with the gay couple, and that was a beautiful episode. Like nobody has any issues with that, because it wasn't particularly saying anything about rights or anything like that. It was more to do with these two guys that were in love, and that's absolutely fine. But it was the constant repetition of the F word, the F word, the F word, like that. It was over and over and over and over and over again. And then you got the evil preacher with his nefarious, naughty ways and all the rest of it. I was thinking, oh no, man, here we go. Again, that was blissfully absent from the last episode, and I hope that I'm wrong. But it doesn't bode well for me if it's going to go down this heavy commentary line in season two,
Yeah,
and I hope it doesn't.
I don't think that the game, and Jamin D is commenting on this, who says, I don't remember if he was a priest in the game, but he was a cult leader. He was a cult leader. I don't remember if he was a priest myself. I don't remember all those details. There are some very specific things I remember. For example, Jamin D and I do remember that she was in the cage and he tried to kind of, sexually assault her, I guess is what his intention was. And she wouldn't allow that. And that gave her the fuel to escape.
Mm.
The other part was that I think that uh, they were more indicative of what might have been out there, regardless of what their religious path was. These guys were crazy, and
Sure.
he
So then why
he.
have him quoting the Bible at the beginning and talking about his flock and strengthening God and God
Well,
and God?
I'm just talking about the game, and I don't remember, Russ. I don't remember if he quotes God or anything like that in it. I
He
really
does. He literally does. He's reading from the scriptures at the
no,
beginning. He's
no.
reading
I
from
mean in the game.
Revelations.
In the
Oh, in the
game,
game. I couldn't tell you about the game, but it was definitely
yeah.
there in the show. These were
I
out and out. This is a Christian sect.
I don't remember if in the game he does that. I just can't remember that part, and
Mm.
maybe Jamin D does. I think he was more of a cult leader though, rather than like let's say a Christian priest or anything like that. And Jamin, I think, concurs with that. He was a cult leader.
I'm so
Um,
sorry. My stepfather's calling. I've got to take this.
Sure, sure. Um, yeah, yeah. Darth Vader, you're right about the cannibalism.
Hello.
That being sort of a common uh, theme that we see. Unfortunately, it is something that we saw in the story, and it was very scary. And you knew they were going to have some kind of cannibalism comment, right, guys? Where Irene says it was such a lovely episode. I don't remember. I almost wanted to go and play the game before I watched this season because I wanted to remember all those parts. And then I realized I said I don't really have time to play the game before that. But what I was going to say is that they just wanted to really just show that Ellie could be captured and be in a lot of trouble. And to be honest with you, she escaped by the skin of her teeth. She didn't. She was relentless, and I think because she was part of Fedra, that's why she was able to escape. If she had not been trained by Fedra and become, sort of known what to do, it would have been trouble. Jamin says I've only played the game once, so I don't remember exactly. Yeah, I don't remember it either, Jamin. So this is something that I can't answer. But he, was controlling, and I think they did a nice job of showing how controlling he was of the group of people, and it did get scary. And Ellie was lucky to get out of that situation. I think that most likely any other girl would have died, and she would have been killed, and she might have been one of those corpses hanging up. Where they keep her for meat to eat later on. Yeah, she went exactly, Irene, that scene where she went full on Rambo teen. She really did. She knew exactly. She was really this idea about having to fight, and she knew she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was also fighting for Joel at that point because she needed to make sure he was fine. But yeah, here it says this particular article says the Last of Us didn't really paint Joel as anything but the hero until this final episode. Some people are looking at it as it's he's really kind of turned or gone to a point where he's irredeemable, while other people at the end, which was also very significant, where Ellie is literally in a lab gown or a hospital gown, and she tells him what happened, why are we here, and he's
Mm.
like, oh, the hospital got raided. I can't remember what the excuse
Yeah,
was.
Raiders came as soon as Raiders attacked us, and I had to get you out of there. Is what he said.
And she goes, okay, that's the story, right? Like later on, she says the story, right? He says, yeah. And she's like, okay. But it's obvious to all of us that Ellie does not believe Joel at the end of the story. She doesn't. And, I also think that was very interesting.
Oh, do you think? I thought she did. You see, I thought, okay, she trusts him, and she said, "What do you swear?" And
Well,
she's like, "Yeah, yeah, I do. I absolutely swear." And she's like, "Okay, then." And I think that sets up the betrayal in season two, like when she ultimately finds out that will, as this article says, make her see him in a new light, because it's not the fact that he didn't let her die; it's the fact that he lied about the whole thing. And they keep talking about trust, like, you trust me? Yeah, I trust you. That's the whole thing. But the whole thing with the gun, about trusting her with the gun, and he eventually, and now it's so casual. Yeah, take the gun. As before, it was like, no, 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 you can't do that. So all of it's good. Look, whatever you think of this dude's politics, he can write, because that all that stuff was in there. The signs were all there. It was all set up, and it all paid off, and it paid off very subtly, which is why the political stuff just landed like a lead balloon. It was so obvious. It's like, oh, dude, turn it in, please. Don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this.
Well,
But
another
whatever.
thing I do want to mention is this is one of those games too. And, I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong here. There is no right or wrong in any of this. What is interesting is that from the acting in this story, while she was in the car in the hospital gown, it didn't seem like she believed him at that point to me. Now, when she asked him later, sort of
At
like
that
on
point, yes.
yeah. When she sees him later on in the side of the mountain, she says something like, "That's really what happened, right?" And he goes, "Yes, I think she came to terms with it. She came to terms with it." And I think that she was able to come to terms with it because Marlene herself, um, was not quite the most endearing individual towards her. And I think that if Marlene had other things about, well, Ellie, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? What are your plans? Not that that was that kind of a world, but Marlene kind of seemed a little bit more, let's get down to business rather than
Mm,
being that mother figure that she could have been to the girl. I'm not saying she had to be, but she had a little bit of that disconnect. So now in the video game, I can't remember how she responded in the car. I think when she was in the car, she was still very drowsy, and
mhm.
she really couldn't, calculate everything that had happened. So it wasn't until that mountaintop scene where she says, "I believe you." You kind of like, okay, she's come to terms. It doesn't really matter what happens at this point. Everybody who she knew then, Joel killed every single person in that place.
Yeah.
So there's nobody alive there. He killed the entire, let's say, branch. And I thought part two was going to be them coming after him, the rest of the Fireflies. That's what I thought the second game was going to be about, because I thought to myself, Joel can't get away with this. Like this is might be going too far. It's different if he kind of shot Marlene and got out of there, but I think in the video game there's a lot of people he has to shoot. Correct me if
Mm.
I'm wrong, Jamin D. He almost wipes out maybe a bunch of people. With the impression that I got was that he had to pretty much destroy all of these guys, and knowing that by the time they get word back and find out what's happened, and that Joel may be still alive and Ellie's still alive, that they would come back for retribution. At least that's how I looked at it.
Mm.
That's how I looked at it. I said, they're going to see this. Oh, she's still alive. We can still get her. Let's go get her.
Yeah.
That's what I thought they would say, because they were so committed to this. And here the article does talk about how if Marlene was honest, it would have been very different. But thank you, Irene, for the $5 super chat for my
Yes.
brunch crew. Thank you, Irene. I so appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Darth Plato says Joel can't move on. I'm going to wrap this part up and we're going to talk about the Mandalorian, Russ.
I'm afraid not. I actually have to leave at the end of this segment. I'm very sorry. I've just had a call about my stepdad, so I've actually got to go back where I was before the fucking show started. Now I've got to go all the way back to Hounslow.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
sorry, Russ. Thank you for taking the time out today. I hope he's all right. I understand what you're going through. Um,
I don't know what's going on because his carer hasn't got the best English. But yeah, so I can't really stop on too much longer. I mean, we can finish up these chats, then I got a jet.
yeah, let's do that and let's close the show. Actually, thank you so much, Irene. I so appreciate the $5 super chat. It is so generous. And Darth Plato says Joel can't move on. Yeah, it's very
Right.
interesting where Joel finds himself, Darth Plato.
Right. I just want to comment on that actually, Darth Plato. Here's the thing, right? Joel is the same age or thereabouts that I am. I think he's 52 or 54 or something like that. I'm 52. And when they talk about old people being set in their ways and not being able to move, things like that, it's absolutely true. Like I still sort of believe the same. Your mind gets set, as Irene says, at like sort of 25, and I haven't really moved on from that. And the older I get, the more staunch I get in those beliefs. So that you have absolutely nailed it. And I just think, and in all the lead up and the setup to absolutely what happened at the end of that episode, it's all there. It's all in the story. It's all in in the script, and I can't remember if that father-daughter conversation happened. I think it happened in the last episode. It would have been great if it happened in the episode before. To really sort of set it up and just leave it forgotten. Then you go, because that show has done a lot of that. Like talking about trust and the gun, and like that's a big word in that show is trust. And finally, you find out that trust is going to be betrayed at the end and all the rest of it. But yeah, absolutely spot on. I don't believe he can move on, and I think that that's entirely in keeping with his character.
Yeah, and Irene says, I don't think Joel could handle losing two
No,
daughters.
he
Yeah.
literally says that. She said, like, was that the guy that missed? And he's like, I was the guy that missed. So you're spot on, Irene. He couldn't because he tried to kill himself over the first one. So and think now that he was a young man then, 33, 34, whatever he was supposed to be, he's young. You move that on 20 years and you finally open up and you let somebody else in and have that taken away. Yeah, I'd blow my own head off 100%.
Yes, and Bonzo says it's not about Joel's trust, but his shame. And yeah, he did have to kill a lot of people,
You
right,
think,
Bonzo? And
Bonzo,
it's a lot. It was a
what
lot. He had to kill a lot of people in it.
you
In the
think?
in the
But do
game,
you,
yes, it was.
yeah,
It
no,
was.
no, no. But do you
He
think
killed.
it's about that? Because I don't think he cared.
I think that it was a concern for him because he didn't want it to get to this point, but now he was faced with an impossible situation where if he didn't do that, they would have come after him.
Hmm.
Marlene would have come after him. The group, they would have picked up all those guns. They would have come after him and gotten Ellie. So now he went from not just having to take Ellie, but having to kill like 20 or 30 people. That's what I.
Right, but Bonzo's point is he doesn't think it's about trust. It's about having to kill. You talk about Ellie, that so many people had to die to sort of save her life. Because I don't think Joel cares. I think he just went in there and just he just took care of business. And those people were it was kill or be killed. Him or his surrogate daughter. He was going to go in there. And I don't think he suffers any guilt. Are you saying that it's not that her trust has been betrayed, it's the fact that so many people had to die to save her in not cold-blooded murder, but certainly in a violent military action? I'm not
Yeah,
sure what you're getting
because
at there, mate.
what was interesting about this is this is what I think he's getting at. As soon as Ellie walks into the hospital, she's pretty much a prisoner there.
Mm.
She can't just walk out. They wouldn't allow her to leave if she wanted to. So as soon as he surrenders her, it's like her fate, is up to them. And Marlene even made a comment about, well, let's let him off halfway past the city, but she wouldn't give him back any of his gear or anything like that. She kind of treated him like he was persona non grata, which is not something a person would have done considering the gravity of why she needed Ellie to be there. Because Marlene knew this was wrong. At least that's how I'm looking at it.
Well,
And
it's also a smart command decision because she knows Joel. She knows what he's capable of. She's been trying to get him to be a Firefly for years because he's ex-military and he's an ass kicker and all the rest of it. However, he hasn't done anything. So she takes the choice of him doing something away from him by saying, take his guns, give him his backpack and his water, and
yes,
then dump him at the end of the
yes,
city.
yeah.
So morally, she's done the right thing, and they can get on with the operation, knowing that if Joel kicks off, they'll be hard pressed to take him out.
But it's ironic because if Joel had his weapons, she knows that Joel would not kick off. She knows that he would fight back in
Mm.
this situation. And it is interesting. I don't think Joel wanted to end up killing these Firefly people that he was a major part of. Like these are people he knows. Mario says, I never understood Ellie's behavior for Joel. How could I hate someone that saved my life? Well, you know something? I can't go ahead and explain how Ellie feels. She is very unique person. I'm not going to go ahead and try to understand what this girl is going through. This is very, very difficult to kind of understand her. Marlene kept her boundaries. I think, yeah, she did. She stayed distant because she knew the girl was going to die. She didn't want to get attached to Ellie because if she cared for Ellie, she might, go back on the decision. Yeah, I hadn't realized he left the nurses alive.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
And Irene says Ellie fell into the hole in Joel's security gate, his daughter. Yes. Moral, yes, Darth Vader. It was so good that we are even having this conversation. It's fantastic. And Jamin says Joel's a character who's been dropping people right and left depending upon what he wants. Thinking he would make righteous something at the end would not be him. Okay, fair enough, Jamin. I hadn't thought about that.
Good point.
Yeah, and guys, I'm gonna end the show. So great seeing all of you. I'm so sorry, Irene, for your loss there, and certainly everybody. Russ, we were hoping things work out. Let's just go ahead and wrap up the show. With one of the last comments, if you feel you don't feel that relationship between those two on the show, then what happens in the end? You also feel or you can't buy was just based on, yeah, you see, that was something that I think is what Mario is getting at, is that after someone did something like that for you, you wouldn't turn your back on them. But it's all about perception and what Ellie has or
Well,
hasn't been told.
it might be about if she finds out. We talk about guilt, and this is the last thing I'm going to say because then I do have to leg it.
Yeah.
Talking about guilt, if you're her and you find out at the age of 23, 24, look, dad, actually, what did go down? Or somebody tells her, well, you didn't hear about what your dad did. Oh, what the fuck did my dad do? He fucking massacred 30 people to get you out of there. They were trying to
Mhm.
fucking operate on you to save the world. Yeah, sure, it would have killed you. Well, I told them it was fine. They could operate on me. Well, yeah, but he didn't. He killed 30 people or 20 people to get you out of there. And here we are, still in the apocalypse. Thanks, dad.
Yeah, maybe we
That
wouldn't be in the
might affect you. Then you would be like, Dad, what the hell? I was okay with that. How dare you make that decision for me? Because you're arguing with your father now as a 25-year-old as opposed to a 15-year-old or however many years after this takes place. As an adult, you are going to look back and remember that time when you were 15. It's kind of like how parents fall out with their children when they grow up, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, oh, I don't talk to my daughter much because the decisions because we're all, as somebody pointed out, and I'm sorry, I forgot, pointed out, we all get older and we're stuck in our ways. We can't move on from things. And young people see the world in a completely different way. We're all
Yeah.
young once. Her attitude changes towards him and the decisions that he made that were right for them both at the time, maybe. But now, with her moral compass and her developed maturity, doesn't see it like that. That could be the schism. And on that cheery note about schisms, I have to go. I have to run. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody in the chat. It was a great debate today, and I'm really happy that this actually did cause some disagreement and some debate because it just goes to show you that you can have a disagreement about what do you think is the right moral choice without rage quitting the rage quitting the stream and you
Yeah.
know and
No,
screaming and
yeah,
shouting.
it
So,
was
so it was brilliant.
good.
It was absolutely brilliant.
You
Especially
guys,
wanted to say thanks to Irene, who I've not seen on here before. But that's could be because I wasn't on the show. Whatever. It's so nice to have perhaps a new person. I don't know if you're new, but your contributions were very much appreciated, as were everybody else's. And there's Paulie. Paulie, you missed it.
yes. Certainly, guys, thank you so much, everybody. Paulie, I'm sorry we're shutting down the show, but so good to see you, Paulie. So wonderful to see you. And guys, check out Russ on russwhitfield.com. Check me out here on Positive Fandom, on the Burnettwork, on Lorena Creole's channel, and on the 1/6 Scale Man Network. Everybody, on behalf of Tom Jr. Jackson, we're all good people. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Take care, and remember to always be kind.
Thanks
Bye.
so much, guys. Cheers, cheers.